Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And with your permission, Mr. Speaker, I also wish to record my appreciation for the invitation to come to the House, where I also served for 5 years. Mr. Speaker, in response to the Honorable Senator's question, Homa Bay County is not a pyrethrum growing zone, since the climatic conditions are not favorable for such. Homa Bay County is located within an altitude of 1,163 meters to 1,219 meters above sea level, with a rainfall of about 700 to 800 millimeters and an annual temperature of 17 to 34 degrees Celsius. These climatic conditions are not suitable for pyrethrum growing. This was also confirmed, by the way, by the Deputy Governor of Homa Bay County through the letter dated on the 28th of May 2025, which is annexed. In Kenya, for general information, Mr. Speaker, pyrethrum is grown in 19 counties within the highland regions of Kenya, comprising of the North Rift region, and those counties in the North Rift are Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot, Bungoma in Mount Elgon, Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, and Nandi. In the South Rift region, we have got Nakuru, Kericho, Bomet, and Narok. In the Central Eastern region, there is also Laikipia, Nyandarua, Meru, Nyeri, Kiambu, and Embu. And in the Lake region block, we have got Kisii and Nyamira. The reason why this is the case, Mr. Speaker, is because the suitable conditions within the highlands for growing of pyrethrum are essentially, number one, an altitude of about 1,700 meters to 3,000 meters above sea level. The best flowering is usually achieved in altitudes of above 2,130 meters above sea level. It also requires well-drained volcanic soils with a minimum pH of about 5.6 and an annual rainfall of a minimum of about 800 millimeters, well spread within the season. The temperatures below 18 degrees Celsius persist for at least 6 weeks to initiate flowering, high temperatures, water deficit conditions, and photoperiod effect flowering, flower development, and pyrethrin yields. In the second question, Mr. Speaker, in response to the second question regarding the revitalization of pyrethrum sector in the Lake region and economic bloc and in the country generally, let me inform the Honorable House that the government is pursuing several policy reforms and initiatives to revitalize the pyrethrum sector, both in the Lake region bloc as well as the other counties, particularly Kisii, Nyamira counties, where pyrethrum does well, and across the country generally. The reforms are geared towards boosting production, improving farmers' livelihoods, and addressing global market challenges. Specifically, on policy reforms, one is the distribution of high quality and clean planting materials. We have experienced in the past problems as far as seeds are concerned, and the government is focused on providing farmers with high quality, clean pyrethrum planting materials. Several stakeholders have distributed planting materials to pyrethrum farmers, and the planting materials, including the seedlings, distributed to West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nyandarua, and Nakuru, which each received about 250,000 seedlings respectively, and Kericho, some 50,000 seedlings. Mr. Speaker, it is also pertinent to us and clear that the government is encouraging the participation of private sector in the growing and processing of pyrethrum to make the subsector more competitive. And not just more competitive, is to create a market for the pyrethrum growing farmers. And already within the country, some of the partners are botanical extract. We have got a company called Kentagra, Biotechnology, and Africhem Technologies. These are investors in production and value addition of pyrethrum products. We have financial challenges within the sector. The government allocated some 105 million, which everybody will appreciate that that money is not enough for the pyrethrum processing company of Kenya. We have got a huge debt portfolio, which has fallen over many years, and therefore we can only use this money for the purchasing of seeds and propagation of planting of seedlings and provision of extension services to farmers. However, we will need your support in terms of getting adequate provisions to revive the industry. But I'm going also to make proposals as I explain, as I answer the question. The issue of addressing the historical issue of delayed payments to farmers is a critical policy reform. Agriculture and Food Authority regulates both private and government players to ensure prompt payments at competitive rates per kilo and based on pyrethrin content as an incentive to return to pyrethrum farming. Mr. Speaker, the reason why a lot of people stopped farming pyrethrum is because A, there was no market, and B, they were not being paid on time. The ministry, through the Pyrethrum Processing Company of Kenya Limited, pays the pyrethrum growers their produce on the basis of pyrethrin content. In an ideal situation, the practice is to advance growers an amount of money per every kilogram of dry flowers delivered to the factory, and the balance to be paid after the content analysis. But to be honest, this is not happening due to cash flow constraints that the company has. The advance is to cushion growers and enable them to manage the agronomic practices to enhance production per unit area. And just, Mr. Speaker, with the document that we have given a pricing, the pyrethrum producer price schedule, which is attached to my answer there. I don't know whether you want me to go through the whole...
No, it's not necessary.
The whole thing. But let me just highlight one thing, Mr. Speaker, to say that the highest rates that we have paid at the moment is actually in West Pokot at 525 shillings per kilo. And the reason why West Pokot is earning very high rates is because the pyrethrin content within the pyrethrum grown in West Pokot is actually the highest in the country at the moment. Mr. Speaker, we are also looking at liberalizing the pyrethrum sector by encouraging the private investors to join the value chain. You know, the aim here is at eliminating the monopoly previously held by the defunct Pyrethrum Board of Kenya and foster competition, which is expected to lead to better prices for farmers and stimulate growth. We also aim at reducing competition, unnecessary competition from imported pyrethrum. You will recall, Mr. Speaker, that following demands from both this House and the National Assembly, we banned some 77 pesticide products and restricted over 200 others imported into the country. And this creates an opportunity for the pyrethrum industry to start replacing the pesticides that we have banned from outside the country with suitable organic pesticides, because pesticides are still necessary. But we can produce them organically using pyrethrum. So the pyrethrum-based pesticides will provide a good market for our pyrethrum farmers. Mr. Speaker, it is also important for us as a government, and we are encouraging the adoption of modern technologies like solar dryers for post-harvest management to reduce losses. And this has supported the counties with a total of 72 solar dryers. 64 were supplied by AFA in Nyandarua, Nakuru, Bomet, West Pokot counties, and 8 were also supplied by the Pyrethrum Processing Company in Nyandarua County for demonstration purposes and adoption by farmers. On the third question, Mr. Speaker, that is alluding to the issue of what the government is doing to enhance access by farmers to certified pyrethrum plantlets and extension services, is that the government has been assisting farmers to access pyrethrum planting materials, besides provision of extension services in collaboration with other stakeholders. You will remember, Mr. Speaker, that agriculture is a devolved function, and consequently the extension officers are essentially managed by the counties. And we have got specialized extension officers who work with county extension officers so that they can advise the farmers. The idea is also to provide training facilities for the farmers within the processing company so that they can get the best crop husbandry that is available in the country. And on the planting materials, Mr. Speaker, the ministry, through the Pyrethrum Processing Company of Kenya, propagates clean planting materials in two areas, that is in Muguga and Molo tissue culture laboratories through tissue culture technologies. We also distribute clean materials. The Ministry of Agriculture has also distributed standard pyrethrum planting materials to farmers, as alluded to earlier. The issue of extension services is crucial, not just for the pyrethrum growing, but also for all other crops. And this is one of the issues that we have to work very closely with the county governments to provide extension officers. I think, Mr. Speaker, it is also important for us to say at this point that for a long time, the definition of an extension officer has been vague and undefined. And one of the efforts that we are putting forward is that it is a certification of extension officers. Those people qualified to be extension officers should be people who are certified by the Kenya Agricultural Colleges so that they have got certificates that qualify them as extension officers. By so doing, we will make sure that there is a standard in the country for extension officers, including the ones for pyrethrum. And in the last question, Mr. Speaker, in the issue of the details, to provide the details on the initiatives by the government to secure guaranteed foreign markets, Mr. Speaker, I found several issues within the ministry and within this sector. And to be honest, Mr. Speaker, this has been a very challenging and sometimes frustrating area to deal with in terms of the foreign markets, even though we are exporting. And I will explain why I have said, I've made that statement. The draft crop pyrethrum regulations 2024 under development will provide a framework for the pyrethrum sector, including the requirements for nurseries, processors, and exporters. Two, Mr. Speaker, the pyrethrum products market is segmented, and let me explain this. The US market requires a generation of critical toxicology and efficacy data required by the US regulatory agency, i.e., the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. The Pyrethrum Processing Company of Kenya is a member of the Pyrethrum Joint Venture, a consortium that includes major stakeholders in the global pyrethrum industry. The government has put in efforts to renew its registrations to EPA. Mr. Speaker, this is important for me. That is a very pregnant statement in terms of our effort to renew, because it elapsed. The renewal, the registration lapsed in the US, and it takes quite some time and quite some money, that we will need in order for us to renew the EPA, registration within the EPA. And only after registration with the EPA, unfortunately for us, it is renewal, not new registration, because the new registration would almost take 2 years. So we are renewing that, and we are putting effort to do so. We have already got somebody, an agent, who is working on doing so. In the European Union, pyrethrum is regulated under the biocidal product regulation. and the registration is coordinated through the European Chemical Agency, what they call ECHA. Kenyan pyrethrum product has been trading in European markets through a network of distributors. Thirdly, the acquisition of international certification standards for quality products, where the pyrethrum processing company is aligning its processing standards to meet good manufacturing practice. That is known as the GMP. Secondly, ISO. Third, the good laboratory practices standards demanded by the global markets. In terms of enhancing value addition and agro-processing, the government, through the same institution, has invested significantly in agro-processing to enhance value addition to pyrethrum products. You will recall, Mr. Speaker, that we have got a new plant in Nakuru, which unfortunately has never been commissioned as a result of a lack of proper management and also a lack of enough pyrethrum within the country. So these efforts have led to the registration and commercialization of 7 pyrethrum-based products targeting pests in animal health, public health, agriculture, commercial, and industrial sectors. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the government has introduced agro-processing zones where pyrethrum processors can access affordable industrial spaces to process pyrethrum-based products. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator for Kisumu County, do you have any supplementary questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just one question. The Honorable CS for Agriculture, at page 4, you have indicated the allocation to pyrethrum of Kenya shillings 105 million in the financial year 2024-2025. Are there any earnings? Could the Minister clarify whether there are earnings from pyrethrum, if any?
Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, just take a couple of questions.
Okay,
then you
okay,
can respond to them at once.
No, Mr. Speaker, I was shocked. I thought we have another Senator Wambua here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the CS has admitted in many words that since the disbandment of the Pyrethrum Board of Kenya in the year 2013, the crop has walked a very painful journey towards being an orphaned cash crop. The Speaker, he has also admitted that there is global demand for natural insecticides, and pyrethrum would really fit that bill. The Speaker, I want to know what percentage of the ministry budget has been allocated to research and development of the pyrethrum subsector in view of the demands of the global market for the crop. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mbugua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bwana Cabinet Secretary, in the year 2021, the Cabinet then approved the sale of assets of Pyrethrum Board of Kenya to settle debts owed to pyrethrum farmers. Would you tell this House the specific assets which were sold, how much was raised, and how much is being owed to pyrethrum farmers at the moment? Thank you.
Senator Maanzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, bearing in mind that the world now is going organic, and organic insecticides are very popular and on demand in the world now, what programs does the Cabinet Secretary have for the future so that we may capture this market and make sure that pyrethrum is back on track, no more debts, and we are able to make profits worldwide? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddie Okech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Waziri has indicated that Homa Bay has got no good climatic conditions for growing pyrethrum. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to know from Waziri, is there a policy position to that effect? Because the national government is charged with making policy on some of these devolved government functions. Is there that policy that has been established to that effect, and has that policy been communicated to counties? Because the purpose for that question is, we have seen Homa Bay County budget lines having pyrethrum as a cornerstone for agriculture in that area. Even in Migori County, there has been indication for growing pyrethrum. Could there be a possibility that there is a conduit of loss of money by our counties if there is no policy position? So is there a policy position that has been communicated to counties with regards to that answer, Mr. Speaker?
Honorable CS, you have 4 minutes to respond to those supplementary questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the earnings, that there are some earnings that we do get from selling the products that the company has been making. But given the budgetary requirements, this is not enough. The company has been earning about 35 million shillings per year. You know, at best, it came to about 60 million shillings per year. And let me also say that there is no money that has been allocated for research. So all this, which is a very critical area for us. And it is not that we have not proposed the research budget. It is only that at the end of the budget process, we find ourselves with not just no money for research, but not enough money even to sustain the organization itself. So, and this is why I was quite candid and honest about it. But I want to, perhaps if I answer in a broader way, I'll cover some of the questions together. Mr. Speaker, the only way, in our view, in terms of policy structure, that we have a future within the pyrethrum sector is to involve the private sector. And the way that we propose is there is a CAB memo at the moment, which I have done, and we are working with Treasury on this one, to see whether we can go into leasing of the pyrethrum processing company of Kenya. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, this idea came from the employees themselves who actually sent a memo to me to ask me whether this is possible, and I agree that this is the way forward. If you look at the privately licensed or the private organizations in the country, they are managing to survive. And therefore, what we should also do, just like we have done with other industries in tea, in cotton, in sugar, is to license private sector so that they can do so, obviously in a transparent and very clear manner. Mr. Speaker, let me just for a little bit also address the issue of the debts and the assets of the organization. Mr. Speaker, farmers themselves are owed only about 10 million shillings, which is essentially the payments from August, November, August, September, and October, which we have not managed to pay, but which we are going to pay. But that's not the main beef. The main challenge, Mr. Speaker, is that the debt portfolio of the organization, and that also comes back to the question that was asked about what we are doing about the debt. The debt portfolio of the organization is some 3.5 billion. And this debt is essentially in suppliers and staff pension. We have tried as much as possible to keep on paying the farmers, but there is a debt portfolio of about 3.5 billion. There was the proposal, as a senator has rightly said, that assets should be sold in order to cover this debt. And it is true that the organization also has an asset portfolio of about 6 billion shillings. So it is possible for us to cover the debt once we sell. But the process of doing so hit a problem at some point. And then the movement from the original company to this organization, the transition period, the valuation of those assets, and so on and so forth, delayed everything about the sale of the assets. So to date, we have not sold any of the assets. And of course, once the cabinet agrees that we license the organization, we will need to go through the entire valuation of the assets again. So because the valuation that we have is a valuation that was done at that time. So, Mr. Speaker, the idea of settling the debts via the sale of some of the assets is still what we intend to do, because there is no other way. And indeed, for us to make it viable for licensing, it is necessary that we settle the debts. Nobody in their right minds, no businessman, is going to come up and say that they want an organization that is in the red to the tune of 3.5 billion. So we need to clean up our balance sheet as we move forward towards the licensing regime. On Homa Bay, the guiding principle on in terms of where to plant what is essentially the weather and climate conditions that I said, that I alluded to when I said when I answered the first part of Senator Ojienda's question. This is what guides the policy framework. You cannot decide that you want pyrethrum to grow pyrethrum in an area where the climatic conditions do not do so. There are some spots. There are some spots within Homa Bay, some hilly spots that there is experimenting going on to see whether indeed it is possible to grow pyrethrum there. But largely, this is not going to be a big crop in the Homa Bay area simply because of the climatic conditions. There are other crops like palm oil that are very, very suitable, you know, for Homa Bay. And indeed, we are in engagements with the county government regarding how we can support the production of palm oil, which perhaps will be the premier crop in that county in the future. Mr. Speaker, I think I have addressed all the questions that were asked. I submit.
Thank you so much, Honorable CS. We will terminate our interaction with the CS at that juncture. We will therefore allow the CS to leave at his own pleasure. We will now move to question number 105. Clerk, you may usher in the CS in charge of energy.